This lovely 1965 Deluxe Reverb came into me about 4 years ago, I think it was, and it had been in a house fire, and it was just completely trashed. This was back when I was doing everything on Facebook, and I can't find that video or that series of photos easily on Facebook because they screwed up everything and how all my photo galleries and videos were sorted, so it's on there somewhere. If I need to open this up, we'll take a peek and see what I did. But the owner's been using it since then very happily, but he called me yesterday and said all of a sudden it has low volume. So let's see what's going on. All right, let's power it on. The non-original fuse holder was there when I got the amp 4 years ago, and it was working fine. We didn't change that. We changed all the things that was necessary to make it function. All right, so some crackle and some hum. And the owner said it was on both channels. Yeah, I've got the channel volume at 5 on each channel. And it's about where it would be on 2. So, let's take a look at the tubes it could be. It's not going to be V5, that's only for the tremolo. It's not going to be V3. That's the reverb driver. These two tubes share a cathode on the second gain stage of each. So if one of these tubes is problematic, it could lower gain to the entire thing. The only other common tube in the amp is the phase inverter. So let's try pulling one then the other preamp tube here and see if the normal channel goes up in volume. I pretty much instantly saw what the problem was, and I'll show you that in a minute, but let's do a quick tour through this. Everything in here has been replaced except the old board. Had to replace everything, all the wires. All those orange drops are polyesters. Try to get everything as close to the original as possible, except for the the screen grids there. Those are some 3-watt Panasonics and another one over in the bias supply. That non-period correct fuse holder bothers me. I'm going to put in something more period correct in just a minute, just because that one thing there kind of ticks me off. But over here is the reason this amp has lost output. This ground wire has pulled out of the solder joint. This ground wire goes here. It's a phase inverter ground, and it's pulled up. I used 18 gauge bus wire for that 5 years ago, and the board must have moved, flexed. I should have built in a little bit more slack, so I'm going to replace that with a new piece of longer bus wire so that I will have a little less tension on that, so that it won't happen again. So I'm not going to charge for this repair because this is just part of the learning process. Something I did not know 5 years ago, which I know now. That's an easy enough thing to do, and it's thanks to this customer for being a long-term customer, client, and friend, which is one of the nice things about doing this is you meet really cool people and really cool musicians, and sometimes you're lucky enough to make really cool friends out of them. So I'm going to change this out too. We'll take care of those two things, and then we'll see where the sound is at. Well, here's the new If not period correct, at least it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb fuse holder. All wired up and soldered neatly. And over here, a new length of 18 gauge bus wire with a big curve with a lot more slack, so there's not as much stress there. New solder joint there. J hooked over the edge of the eyelet for mechanical support, then resoldered. Let's power this back up and see where the level's at now that the entire phase inverter has a ground reference. Ooh. All right, waiting for it to come up out of standby. Powering it on. Still a little bit of rushing water noise, which might be a tube. I'll look into that in a moment. But normal channel volume on 4, which was really quiet before. Much louder. If I turn it up, now it'll probably get in some breakup. Probably wasn't the best thing for the lav mic to hear. Double check the other channel. I'm wondering why we had that rushing water sound at startup. And I'm aware that I play a lot of the same stuff when I'm doing these little tests like this, because I'm thinking about the amp, not about playing music. I'm thinking about what I'm hearing, what it could be, and a lot of stuff I do is just kind of left-hand hammer-on-y, easy bits, because my attention is elsewhere. So once it comes up, it doesn't seem to have any of those noises. But coming from a cold start, it's got some. So I'm going to make that part 2 of the process, try to track that down. And that might be something simple as an old rectifier tube. But I need to let everything cool off again before I can replicate that. So here comes the laborious part of this. But the actual problem was very minor, very common, and easily fixed. And knowing what I know now, would not have happened in the first place on this rebuild. But, if we were born knowing everything, life would be pretty boring. All right, turns out all that noise was a bad tube in V2, which is on the tube used for the reverb channel. And the symptom was both that crackly noise, which was exacerbated by a dirty treble pot. I cleaned all the pots, but a lot of the crackles here. But this had a hum on the volume that was gone when it's at minimum. It was gone when it's all the way up, but it's present in the middle, which was very loud in the middle, unlike before. But that hum was there. It was an old tongue saw that's been changed out, and now it's very nice. There's a little bit of hum because the pickups are so close to the transformer, but other than that... In fact, that might have been too loud for this lav mic. Sounding just as it ought. It sounds glorious. I think maybe tomorrow I'll set up the real mic and let you guys hear what this, it's a 65 Deluxe Reverb as far as the chassis, transformers, cabinet, and most of the pots are concerned, and the material of the board. Everything else has been replaced by moi, and I showed you where I made a mistake 5 years ago, what I've learned since then, and how I fixed it. So as far as free fixes go, I think this is up there. Very happy with this amp. It's always nice to see something come back, and I'm proud of the work I did, and that one little ground wire. Turns out I could have done better. But if you look back on something you did 5 years ago and you're entirely thrilled with it, maybe you haven't been learning the past 5 years. At least that's the excuse I tell myself.